King Daniel chapter gave a great banquet for 8,000 of his nobles. King Belshazzar drank wine with them. Gave a great banquet. Well, Belshazzar poured 8,000 of his drinking his wine and drank wine with them to bring in the gold. And well, Belshazzar was drinking his wine. He gave orders to bring in the gold from the temple in Jerusalem. So that the king and his father had taken from the temple in Jerusalem his concubines might drink from so that the king and his nobles, his wives, brought in and his concubines that might drink from the temple of God in Jerusalem. So they brought in the king and his nobles that had been taken from the temple of God in Jerusalem from them. And the king and his nobles, his wives, praised the gods of concubines and drank from them of bronze. As they drank the wine, they praised the gods of gold, steadily, and silver. The fingers of a human hand would appear and wrote on steadily. The fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on in the royal palace. The plaster. The king watched the hand as it near the lampstand. His face in the royal palace turned pale, and the king watched the hand as his legs became weak. His face and his knees were knocking, and he was so frightened. The king that his legs became weak, and his knees were knocking. And diviners. Then the king summoned the enchanter of Babylon, astrologers, whoever reads this writing, and diviners, and tells then he said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing, gold chain, and tells him what it means, and will be clothed the third highest purple, and have the gold chain placed around his neck. Then and he will be made the third highest ruler. But they could not read the writing or tell then all the king's wise men came in. So King Belshazzar, but they could not read the writing, became even more the king what it meant, and his face grew more pale. So King Belshazzar, his nobles were baffled, became even more terrified. The queen, and his face grew hearing more the pale. Voices of the king, his nobles were baffled, came into the banquet hall. Hearing the voices of the king, may the king live and his nobles came into the banquet hall. Don't look so pale. The king live there forever. Is a man, she said, in your kingdom. Don't who has the spirit of the holy so gods in him. There is a man in the time of your father who has the spirit. He was found to have the holy gods in him. Intelligence in the time of your father. Wisdom. Like he was found to have insight and intelligence. Your father and wisdom, Nebuchadnezzar, like that of the gods, appointed him chief. Your father, of the magicians, king, enchanter, Nebuchadnezzar, astrologers, appointed him chief. Of the magicians, did this because Daniel, enchanters, whom the astrologers called and diviners. He did this because Daniel was found to have whom the king, a king called and knowledge Belteshazzar and understanding was found to have also the ability a king to interpret mind, explain riddles, and knowledge and solve difficult problems, and also the ability to interpret dreams. And he will tell you explain what the writing means and solve difficult problems. So Daniel was brought before the king. And he will tell you to him what the writing means. Are you Daniel? So Daniel was brought before the king. And the king said to him, brought from Judah, are you Daniel? I have heard of the exiles that the spirit of the God, my father, the king, brought from Judah, and that you have insight. I have heard that the spirit of the God wisdom is in you. The wise and men that you have insight. And brought before me to read outstanding wisdom and tell me the wise men and enchanters, but they could not explain. Were brought before me to read this writing. I have heard that you and tell me what it means interpretation. But they could not explain and to solve difficult problems. Now, I have heard that you are able to give interpretations and to solve difficult problems. In purple, if you can read this gold chain placed and tell me what it means, and you will be made the third highest ruler in purple in the kingdom, and have gold chain placed around your neck. Then Daniel answered the king, and you will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom, and give your rewards. Then Daniel answered the king, nevertheless, you may keep your gifts for yourself, the writing for the king, and give your rewards, and tell him what it means to someone else. Nevertheless, Your Majesty, I will the Most High God, the writing for the king, your father, and tell him what it means. Your Majesty, the Most High God, gave your father Nebuchadnezzar glory and splendor because of the high position he gave him and greatness. All the nations and glory and splendor of every because of the high position he gave him. All the nations the king wanted to put to death, of every language to death, dreaded those he wanted to spare. Those the king wanted to put to death, promote, he put to death, and those he wanted to spare, he humbled, he spared. But when those he wanted to promote became he promoted, and those he wanted to humble, he humbled. He was, but when his heart became arrogant, his royal and hardened with pride, and stripped he was of his glory, deposed, he was driven away from his royal throne, and given the mind stripped of his glory. He lived with the wild driven away from people, grass like the ox, and given the mind of an animal was drenched with the he lived with the wild donkey, and ate until he like the ox, that the Most High his body was drenched with the dew over all of heaven. Until he acknowledged that the Most High God is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth, but you sets over them Belshazzar, he wishes. His son, have not humbled yourself, but you, Belshazzar, his son, instead have not humbled yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You knew all you have the goblet. Instead, from his you have set yourself up against the Lord of heaven. In your nobles, you have the goblet. Your wives, in your concubines, brought wine for them. And you in your nobles, the gods your of wives, silver and gold, and your concubines drank wine for them, which you cannot see the gods of silver and gold. Understand. But you did not honor the God who holds which cannot see your life or hear or understand your ways. But you did not honor the God the hand who holds in his hand your life in all your ways. This is the inscription. He stick the hand that wrote the inscription. Mene. This is the inscription. Person that was written. Here is what Mene. These words. Mene. Tekel, person, God has numbered. Here is the days these words mean. And brought it to God has numbered the days of your reign. You and brought it have been weighed on the scales. Tekel and found wanting. You person have been weighed on your the kingdom scales. Is divided and found given wanting. To the Persian, your kingdom is divided. Then and given at Belshazzar to the Medes. Daniel was clothed in purple. Then at Belshazzar was placed around his neck. Daniel was clothed in purple. The third highest ruler in the kingdom was placed around his neck that very night. And he was proclaimed king of Babylon, the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, king of Babylonia, took over the kingdom. Was slain in the age of 60. The Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 62.